How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at some more of my Sci-Fi DVD collection. This is Volume 2. If you haven't seen Volume 1, at the end of the video, there'll be a playlist at the bottom. If you click on that, you can find Part 1 in there, as well as a bunch of other sci-fi videos. But anyway, Volume 1 came out like a week ago, so it hasn't been too terribly much time, but I had a lot of fun making that video, and you guys responded to it pretty well. Plus, I had a bunch of ideas in my head as far as things that I could do, a bunch of movies that I hadn't covered. So I thought I'd go ahead and do Part 2. That being said, just for fun for this video, I have my Legion of Superheroes flight ring. Thought since this is sci-fi, I might as well. Fun fact, if you keep up with this channel, I accidentally had this on the set when I shot the thumbnail for the Langolier, so if you look at that thumbnail, you can see the ring just sitting there. But anyway, I got 6 things for you guys to take a look at today, and the very last thing that we're going to cover is actually something I just picked up, and I'm really excited to finally find it. But anyway, that being said, let's just dive right in. The first one is a classic, Charlton Heston and Leigh Taylor Young in Soylent Green. Charlton Heston actually in quite a few classic sci-fi movies, and really glad to see him in this. Planet of the Apes and The Omega Man are great movies as well. But Soylent Green, you get this fun cover image. You see a riot control bus scooping people up with its giant bulldozer thing, and Charlton Heston has to run away from it. And that actually does happen in the movie. So in addition to being a cool picture, it actually happens in the movie. Below that, we get the tagline. It's the year 2022. Gee, it's next year. It's crazy that we're starting to live to times where all these future movies are set. You know, Back to the Future 2015, Blade Runner 2019, and next year will be Soylent Green. It's the year 2022. People are still the same. They'll do anything to get what they need, and they need Soylent Green. So in this movie, Charlton Heston is a detective, and someone high up at the Soylent Company was murdered, and he has to figure out why. And the Soylent Company is where everyone gets their food now. You see, the Soylent Company makes artificial food. They've had a few other colors, I think red, blue, and brown and stuff. But everybody is eating their food. You see, it's a crazy dystopian future. New York's overcrowded. He's doing good so he can afford a tiny apartment with a roommate, and other people are just like sleeping on the stairs and stuff. But the biggest thing is food. If anyone ever gets real food, they feel amazing. You know, they get like a tiny bit of steak and they're on the verge of tears. Everybody eats this artificial food from the Soylent Company, and Soylent Green, it's green, I think, because they're using like plants from the sea floor to make it. They say it's going to solve the food crisis, but because this guy was murdered, you know that something's up at the Soylent Company, and there's some crazy, you know, cool emotional scenes in this movie. There's some crazy cool dystopian future moments in this movie, but a lot of it is a mystery, and sadly, the ending of this movie does get spoiled a lot, especially because one of the movie's most famous quotes comes from the end. But if you don't know how this movie ends, and you haven't seen it yet, go and watch it before someone spoils it for you. It's a pretty cool mystery there. Open this up. You can see him in the Soylent Green factory above the scenes there, and there's the painting on the disc. But overall, a really fun movie, going from an older classic to a much newer one. This next movie, Ex Machina. Ex Machina, I didn't see it immediately when it came out, but eventually the DVD got pretty cheap, and I thought, hey, why not give this a try? And I actually really did like it. You get this girl This is the same girl that's in the new Tomb Raider movie, and she's a robot. And then you get Oscar Isaac, who's a sort of crazy mad scientist, and he brings this other scientist over and says, I need to do the Turing test on my robot. And the Turing test is where you show someone a robot and they can't tell if it's a robot or a person. And his friend goes, well, it's kind of obvious she's a robot. I mean, I can see all her wires and stuff. And Oscar Isaac says, no, I could just make one that looks like a human and fool you just with special effects. The thing that I want to do is I want to show you that she's a robot and still convince you that she's a human. So you get a lot of this, where's the line between human and robots, and that happens a lot in sci-fi. But this movie really does it better than most of them. Plus, the whole thing's set in this very nice underground bunker. It's fancy, but it's still pretty creepy. And plus, Oscar Isaac is a crazy, mad scientist there. Is pretty fun. There's the disc, got the logo. It's gray with shiny for the logo. But anyway, turned out to be really fun. Definitely recommend it. Moving right along, a Steven Spielberg film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and this is the special collector's edition, so it's got this foil that is very, very shiny. Flip it to the back, you can see Disc 1's the movie, Disc 2 is the special features. You get the making of documentary, the 1977 featurette, Watching the Skies, 11 deleted scenes, filmographies, and theatrical trailers. So this is pretty cool, but this movie is about aliens are going to land on Earth, and they're going to land at the Devil's Rock there, and a bunch of people get visions telling them to go see the aliens. The government surrounds the rock, doesn't want anyone to go there, but these people are determined to see the aliens, and everybody starts to kind of obsess over it. And if we slide this open, one mom's little girl disappears, so she has or little boy rather, disappears, so she has extra incentive to go and check out the Devil's Rock. Open it up. It opens first this way, and you get a bunch of text about the movie, and then secondly, it opens up like this, and I bought this used, and in the side of the disc there, I found this special bonus item. Someone went to Devil's Rock in real life and took a photo of themselves in front of it, which is pretty cool. I went ahead and stuck a post-it note over his face. I don't know who this is. I don't know if he'd be okay with me sharing his photo on the internet. But yeah, it was a used movie store, and someone had left that in, and I'm kind of sad that they didn't know that was in there when they sold it. But yeah, a cool thing to find nonetheless. And there's the disc 1 with the feature, and if we get it lined up right, yeah, the image is behind the disc as well, so it looks like the picture spills off the disc. And then there's disc 2 down below with the specials, the special features. So yeah, a really fun Steven Spielberg movie. There are parts that are a little slow, and it's not the best, but it's overall pretty fun. And if you get kind of into the themes and ideas of this movie, there's some people that jive with this really, really well, and they really do love this movie. I thought it was pretty good, though. I really did like it. But yeah, a good fair bit at the end where you're like, okay, this is dragging a little bit, but still really fun. Up next, Evil gets an upgrade, Jason X. This actually came up in the comments to my last video, and I thought, hey, why not? I should talk about this here, because I really do love this movie. But basically, Freddy vs. Jason was taking a little bit too long, so they wanted to put out another Friday the 13th film, but they didn't want to upset the continuity, so they staged it in the far-off future of, I think it was 2010, but basically, Jason is up to his old tricks, and one of the final girls turns out to secretly be an FBI agent. They capture him and put him at a research laboratory, and as he's attempting to break out, him and the agent get frozen, and they're frozen until the year 2455, so It's been a long time. People come to Earth to salvage parts. It's abandoned in the future. And they find the freezer pod and they open them up. The girl seems okay. Jason seems dead, but we all know better, right? He gets up and he starts attacking people on the spaceship. So it's a really fun Jason in space movie. Now, a lot of people, you just tell them the concept, Jason in space, and they'll just check out. And to be fair, there's lots of cheesy moments, but I really do like this one. You get Jason, and then he eventually, at the end of the film, he becomes Uber Jason with his space mask and stuff. It's cheesy, but I really do like it. It's on a spaceship, which is a new setting, but it still has a lot of the Friday the 13th feel. Plus, there's some really classic kills in this one. The liquid nitrogen scene is one of Jason's like top 10 kills in the whole series. So yeah, it's cheesy, but it's so fun, and it does it really well. So I don't mind. I really do like this movie. Now I'm really wanting to rewatch it again. It's cheesy, but if you know that, it's still really well made, and I really like Jason X. Moving right along, back to the 80s, Dennis Quaid and Max von Sydow in Dreamscape. And you get this sort of Indiana Jones-inspired cover image. It's a really fun painting, and I think this is actually the girl from Indiana Jones 2. But you see, Dennis Quaid is a psychic, and he's been living his life up a little bit too much, and the government notices, hey, we got a psychic over here, you're gonna come work for us now. But they have a dream machine, and if you're a psychic, you can use it, and you can go into people's dreams. So, of course, they send him to train. There's another guy who's really arrogant, but he's been in the program a lot longer, and he gets to go into people's dreams and see crazy surrealist imagery, like the boogeyman up there is a snake guy, a really memorable creature, but there's, the weird stairs and a maze-like house and a crazy post-apocalyptic future. You see the president's there. He has been having nightmares about nuclear war, and at the end of the movie, he's going to have to go into the president's dream to save him. Flip it to the back, and you can see some cool screenshots from the movie. It's overall a really fun 80s sci-fi movie. If you like Nightmare on Elm Street and you like that dream imagery, you get some of that here. Not necessarily as much trying to be scary, but still some cool, fun, surrealist dream imagery. There's the disc with the spiral on it. And overall, I really did like this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. There are some moments that don't work, but I mean, it is a fun, cheesy 80s movie, and I definitely recommend it if you're into that sort of thing. Really cool, and I hadn't heard too much of it before. I just kind of bought it on a whim, and I definitely recommend it if that's your scene there. Last one. This is the one that I just picked up. I was so glad to find it. This is the Heavy Metal double feature. So Heavy Metal and Heavy Metal 2000. Heavy Metal 2000 is why I was so glad I picked this up. I've, of course, seen Heavy Metal several times. It's the pinnacle in American adult animation. You basically have Heavy Metal and Ralph Bakshi. But Heavy Metal 2 is kind of rare, so I, of course, already had Part 1, but I was so glad to pick this up for Part 2. Part 1 is an anthology film. It's science fiction, fantasy, and a little bit of horror, and it's anthology, so you get Tarna there riding on her bird. You get a scene, a Dan O'Bannon one, where there's zombies inside of an airplane. Here you get this really fun spaceship that looks like a big smiley face. There's some really cool moments in this film. It was based on an anthology comics magazine called Heavy Metal. This was originally a French magazine, Metal Hurlant, in France, but they brought it over here, and then it eventually became kind of its own thing. And then shortly after bringing it over here, it became an animated film, and there's so many cool segments. You know, you get a futuristic New York that would look a little bit like The Fifth Element later on. So probably one of the inspirations for it. You get Tarna, of course, fighting in a fantasy segment. You get Den of Earth going on a fantasy adventure, and then the crazy aliens in here that are going on a drug-fueled bender, and you get one with this space captain who's worse than Zap Brannigan. It's pretty cool. Now the sequel, I haven't seen this yet because I just picked this up. Heavy Metal 2000 came out later, the year 2000, and this, rather than being an anthology, is one long story. And I know that originally this wasn't received as well, so there aren't as many DVDs of it floating around, but then it kind of later got a cult following. So I'm really glad to pick this up because this one kind of got to be a little bit rare, and I really want to see what they do with the sequel. I know it's one big story rather than an anthology. It's supposed to be not quite as good, and the animation looks way more modern, but I'm still wanting to check it out. Just such a big fan of the first. I want to see what they do with the sequel, but I have not found it until just now, and also it's really shiny too. But I was really glad to finally pick up Heavy Metal 2000, and I can finally see what happens in the sequel to that movie. But anyway, we got 6 things here. Well, kind of 7 because one's a double pack. And overall, some really great sci-fi movies. And it was fun to, you know, look back at some of these movies that I haven't seen in a bit and go, oh yeah, I remember this, I remember that. And I might do a part 3 somewhat soon. It depends on, you know, what pops into my head and I go, oh yeah, I should cover this or that. So, if you have any ideas, you know, any sci-fi recommendations, feel free to share those as well. But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You're really helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist on the bottom. Should be my sci-fi playlist. You can find part 1 there, as well as a bunch of other cool sci-fi things, movies, and comics. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day.